Hi, everyone. Welcome to our JSM double feature. My name is Kylie Braun. I'll be keeping us on track today. We still have a couple of people that are making their way in, so we are going to give it a few more minutes to let everybody get joined on. We have a lot today. We have two webinar contents series over JSM, as well as pizza. If you were able to sign up for that in time to get that delivered, that should be happening around noon central, and then a comedian around that time as well. So lots to get through. I'll be here to keep track of our schedule so that we get to all of that good information. But we are going to go ahead and give it just one more minute as I see a few people are making their way in, and then we'll get started. All right, welcome everyone to our JSM double feature. If you were here a little bit earlier, you've already heard me introduce myself, but I'll go ahead and say hello and introduce myself to those who have just joined us. So my name is Kylie Braun, and I will be here today to walk us through our packed schedule of JSM Fundamentals webinar, pizza and a comedian, and then ending the day with JSM Fundamentals. So we're so glad to have you through. As I mentioned at the top of our call, I will be on just to keep us on track to get to all of that wonderful information. And I will put out there if you have any specific questions, feel free to send those to me and I will be happy to help. So first off, let's talk through some logistics. We're so glad to have you here for this JSM double feature. And I'd like to quickly introduce the event just so you all know what is headed your way, and then we'll get right into the content. So in case you're wondering who sent me this pizza, if you signed up to get that pizza, and why am I listening to them, we'll start with Valiantis. So we are Valiantis, and we're a Platinum Atlassian partner, and we hold, among others, Atlassian's Agile at Scale specialization. So you'll be hearing today from Brad and Wade, two of our JSM experts here at Valiantis, about JSM fundamentals first. And then to round us out today, you'll hear about JSM for ITSM. So I'd like to also point out that during the event, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We will take time at the end of each content section to answer those questions. So at the end of JSM fundamentals, we'll answer any questions that come in during that section. We'll take a break for lunch in the comedian, and then the second portion, JSM for ITSM, any questions you have about that, feel free to put them in the chat. At the conclusion of that presentation, we'll answer those questions as well. So overall today, our intent is to give you something to enjoy with the pizza and a comedian, and to also educate you on what to expect with Jira Service Management. Along the way, we will have a few prizes. So you'll see me putting in chat some information about our incredible Jira Service Management Bootcamp. We'll be giving away a few tickets to that course today. And I'll put links to our website and additional information about that course as well. So with all of that, to help us get started, I am going to pass it over to Brad Wood, who will be leading us through JSM fundamentals. And then at the end of this, we'll introduce you to Wade Cornett, who will be walking us through JSM for ITSM. So with that, I'll pass it over to Brad, and thank you so much. Oh, Brad, I just want to let you know we weren't able to hear you.
How about now?
That's all good. All right.
All right. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties at the start of the webinar. Always good. So yeah, welcome everybody. Thanks, Kylie, for that introduction. Like Kylie said, my name's Brad Wood. I'm a consultant and Atlassian certified professional here with Valiantis. And with me is Wade Cornett, our Director of Delivery here at Valientus. And in the next hour, we are going to be walking you through Jira Service Management fundamentals to highlight some of its strengths and capabilities. Like Kylie said, at Valientus, we are a Platinum Solutions partner of Atlassian, and we provide a number of different services based around Atlassian products, including solutions, consulting, licensing, and training, like this webinar, for example. We also work with a full stack software development company that creates custom solutions for Jira through avenues such as app development and API integrations, just to name a few. We offer consulting and licensing services across the entire Atlassian suite of products for organizations of all shapes and sizes, anywhere in the world, and for any platform, including cloud and data center. At Valientus, we are the #1 Atlassian Platinum Solution Partner globally, with exclusive insight and understanding of Atlassian tools, undiluted focus and skill sets, and proven capability at every level. We've partnered with Atlassian since 2006 and have been recognized as the Atlassian Partner of the Year 12 times. At Valientus, we have the culture and the mindset to make Atlassian products work for you due to our cutting-edge curiosity, our commitment to value, and our customer-centric approach. We're invested in your success and engaged with your strategic goals. In addition to our webinars, like Kylie mentioned, we also have extensive training classes on other Atlassian products, like our 4-day Jira Software and Confluence Bootcamp, as well as our 2-day Jira Service Management Bootcamp. It's a 2-day class that takes a comprehensive look at everything you need to know to effectively use and administer Jira Service Management. This course is designed for both administrators and service desk managers. And our boot camps focus on retention. They're interactive workshops designed to leave users confident in their understanding and use of the tools and processes. Our JSM bootcamp covers advanced topics such as assets, Ops Genie, status page, and you can find more information on this and all of our upcoming boot camps by visiting xbm.com/training. And I'm sure Kylie is already putting that link in the chat for everybody. So let's jump into Jira Service Management. What is it and who is it for? Well, Jira Service Management was originally created as a service management tool for IT departments. But over the years, it has evolved into a much more robust platform. Now, JSM is not just for IT teams, it can really be for any service team. So HR, legal, marketing, really anybody who's providing a service or receiving requests from customers can benefit from using Jira Service Management. In addition to a service management tool, JSM is a support system with knowledge bases, a ticketing system. It can be an asset manager. There's really a wide variety of powerful features found within Jira Service Management. It provides an intake channel and tracking for your service requests, which help support and track your customer success. It keeps a record of those service requests and helps keep your customers up to date on their requests. JSM can be connected to internal and external knowledge bases, which we'll look a little bit at some of that functionality a bit later today. It helps tracks and maintains SLAs, which we're going to learn how to configure later in this webinar. And it provides a clean and highly customizable customer portal for requests to be submitted. And this provides a centralized location for our customers to submit their service requests, as opposed to using a large and sometimes inconsistent list of communication methods such as email, Teams chat, Slack, phone calls, face-to-face conversations. Instead, we're going to provide that centralized location for our customers to submit those service requests. And it also provides a location for our customers to view the status of those service requests and a communication channel between customers and agents who are actually working on those requests. And lastly, it can help ensure that our customers are providing the necessary information with their requests, which we'll learn how to set up this morning. JSM can be used for both internal and external customers, and you can utilize automation for Jira to help automate some of those repetitive tasks, which will save your agents time and increase their efficiency, ultimately leading to quicker resolutions to your customers' requests. JSM is built upon Jira software, so if you're already familiar with Jira, you're going to notice many similarities within JSM. But if you're not familiar with Jira software, that's okay. You don't need experience with Jira, and JSM does work as a standalone product. So today we're going to be reviewing the fundamentals of Jira Service Management through 3 different perspectives: our customers, our agents, and our administrators. These are the main perspectives that JSM users will be utilizing, and we'll cover how the tool supports each of these types of users. Excuse me. So our customers are going to be those folks who are going to use the Help Center to raise, track, and comment on requests. They'll be able to share their requests with other users and view knowledge base articles. Our service team will be viewing and managing those requests. They can create and manage knowledge bases. They'll use queues. They'll view reports and SLA metrics and manage customers. And lastly, our administrators will be able to perform all of those agent tasks as well as configure the portals, request types, queues, reports, SLAs, and so on. Advanced Jira Service Management features include incident management, change management, and assets, just to name a couple of them. We do have a 1-hour webinar that covers all these advanced features, and it's coming up later today at 1:00 p.m. Central Time. This webinar is going to build off of the fundamentals webinar that we are currently doing right now, and it takes an in-depth look at the advanced ITSM features of Jira Service Management. And so feel free to stick around for that one. That will happen again at 1:00 p.m. Central Time today. All right, let's dig into the tool now and take a look at Jira Service Management. And just a reminder, we will have a little bit of time at the end for Q&A. So if there's anything I haven't covered that you'd like us to address towards the end of the webinar or expand on something that we have covered, please feel free to submit questions in the chat and we will get to those as time allows. So like I said, we're going to look at Jira Service Management from a few different perspectives, the first being our customers. And JSM has a variety of intake methods you can configure via email, via chat integrations, widgets, but really the main intake method is going to be the Help Center. And this is what the Help Center could look like. We sometimes refer to this as the portal of portals, which will make sense here in a minute. But the Help Center is where your customers can submit their requests, view the status of those requests, interact with agents, etc. And it's really that main area of JSM that customers will be spending their time. So the first thing you can see here in our Help Center is this search bar. And the search bar is going to help our customers find both request forms and some of those knowledge base articles that I mentioned previously. So for instance, if I jump into the search bar and I search for VPN, I am served up with some articles. We can see right here, VPN troubleshooting, and then all of these different request types. And we'll go into request types here in just a minute. The idea with the articles is ticket deflection. So here we're using our knowledge base articles to guide customers to information that may help them solve their own issues themselves, resulting in less tickets being submitted to our agents. So for instance, if I click into VPN troubleshooting, this is just an example article, so it's not going to be very helpful for me in terms of troubleshooting my VPN, but you can see we've got some text here. We've got this image of this cat, which maybe this is an image of a step-by-step guide how to actually troubleshoot your VPN. But there's a lot of different formatting you can do in these knowledge base articles in order to help your customers, again, solve some of their own issues. Towards the bottom here, we see, did this article help? And these results are actually saved and can be reported on. So, the idea is for your customers to give some feedback. And then if our articles aren't helping them, maybe we need to rethink the information here or provide additional information. Maybe this picture of this cat isn't going to help us solve our VPN issues, and we need to rewrite this article. Lastly, we see need to raise a request, contact us. This is going to take us to a portal so we can choose a request type and actually submit a ticket. And that is all configured on the back end as to which portal group that is going to send us to. And then lastly, everything in the portal has a direct link that you can share with your customers. So if you want to send them directly to this article or a request type, you can just copy and paste the direct link from up here in your web browser. I'm going to go back to the main page of the Help Center. Next, we see this topics section. And these are collections of related elements that can be useful to your customers in a variety of ways. They can include both request forms and knowledge base articles. So the idea is to group these in some way that makes sense for similar elements to be grouped together. They can also be cross-project. So unlike our portal groups, which again we'll cover in just a second, portal groups can only display request types from a single project. Our topics section can display things from multiple projects. So that might be helpful to group several request types together that otherwise wouldn't be able to be grouped together. And the Help Center is customizable via this Customize panel on the right-hand side. So if we click in here, we see several different options. We can add a login message. We can manage our announcements, which you see one of those right here. We can customize the look and feel. So maybe we want to change the colors or add our organization's logo. We could do that here. And then the homepage layout is where we would move around some of these featured portals and topics, those types of things. So let's move on to portals. So each portal is connected to a project at JSM. So like I said, they are a one-to-one match between a portal and a project. We can think of these as subsections of the Help Center based on a department, a function, certain request types, something like that. And the idea is to help keep your request types organized based on some kind of similar trait or function. You can have multiple request types within a portal, and access is managed on the back end. And these can be restricted so that customers only see the portals that they should have access to. So for instance, if I don't need to see the HR service desk, that could be restricted, and then I wouldn't even see this out on the Help Center. I wouldn't see this portal at all. So I'm going to click into the IT Service Desk portal, and we can see there's several groups here: computers, logins and accounts, applications, servers and infrastructures. These are, again, just more subsections of our portal, and these contain several request types that are all related in some way. So we can see all of these request types, new laptop, request new hardware, request new software, are all related to computers, and so on and so forth. And then also very quickly, you can notice this breadcrumb trail here. So if for some reason you clicked into the wrong portal, you could just go directly back to the Help Center, and that will follow us as we continue through the portal. There's multiple ways to go back if you've accidentally selected the wrong thing. So I'm going to click into computers, and we see this new field, Contact Us About. This is another way to navigate back to a different portal group within the IT Service Desk portal. So those same portal groups we were looking at previously. So now we can see all of our different request types within this portal group. We can choose any of these depending on what kind of issue we are having. So I'm going to choose request a new laptop. And now this is our request form. And real quick, what can we help you with? Again, if you've selected the wrong request type, you can navigate to any of those other request types within this portal group. So now, starting with raise this request on behalf of, this is our request form for requesting a new laptop. The first form, or field, I should say, raise this request on behalf of. This is a user picker field. I could change this if needed. Perhaps I need to raise this request on behalf of somebody else in our organization. I could do that here, but I'm just going to leave myself. The next field we see is reason for requesting new laptop. And if you notice on both of these fields, and actually this one at the bottom as well, there's a red star. And that means these fields are required in order to submit this request form. So if there's no value in these fields, you will not be able to submit that request. So reason for requesting new laptop, I'm presented with a couple options. I'm going to say current equipment is damaged. The next field we see is any additional details. This is a paragraph style field, so there's a lot of different text formatting options you can see here. We can change the size, we can bold, we can change colors, we could add an attachment, all different types of stuff we can do here. I'm going to just add some quick additional details. And this is just intended to give the agents a little bit more information on what's actually damaged on this device. The next field, which model would you like? At face value, this appears to be a simple drop-down field, but this is actually linked to our assets database. And we will talk about assets later today in the ITSM webinar. So I'm going to choose MacBook Pro 16-inch. And then lastly, assignment group. This is also an assets field. I'm just going to choose laptop maintenance here. And now that I've provided all the necessary information and filled in the required fields, I will click send. And now we can see that my request was submitted, and there's a lot of different information I can see here in addition to the information I just provided. We're going to come back to this in just a second, but quickly I want to show an example of a little bit more of a sophisticated request form. So I'm going to go to our HR service desk and choose employee onboarding. And we can see here there's a lot more going on. There's some formatting, there's columns, there's a date picker field, there's a table, there's these radio button fields, there's checkboxes. This is an example of what Jira calls a form, or sometimes we refer to as a dynamic form. We are not going to go into a lot of detail on those today, but that is covered in detail in our Jira Service Management Bootcamp. Quickly, you can also do some conditional formatting. So for instance, if I click business cards needed, yes, I'm presented with several more form or fields to fill out to provide the information to be included on those business cards. So your forms can get pretty complex and pretty sophisticated if needed. So let's look at the request that I submitted for that new laptop. I can navigate up here to requests and click created by me. Say okay. And here's a list of all open requests that are created by me. There are some different filtering options you can do here if you need to see a list of different things, maybe in a different status, or created by anybody, or where you're a participant, or maybe by a specific request type. Then we see some columns here. These are the different request types I have submitted, their reference numbers, the summary, the status that they're currently in. So this is kind of helpful to just get a quick picture look at the requests you've submitted and maybe the status or where they're at in their life cycle, and then some other information here. So I'm going to click on my request that I submitted today. And here we can see in this details section, this is everything that I filled out on that request form. So the reason for requesting it, my additional details, which model do I want, etc. This is collapsible if needed. In the activity section, this is where I can add a comment to agents. And likewise, if the agents were to comment back to me, this is where those comments would be visible. On our right-hand side, we can see the status. It's waiting for approval. We're going to talk about that in just a second. I can turn my notifications on or off on this request. So maybe I don't need email notifications on this. It's not a high priority issue. I can turn those off. I could cancel directly from this ticket. So maybe I thought my laptop was damaged and it turns out it isn't, and I don't need a new laptop anymore. I would just cancel this request. We can see the request type here. I can share this ticket with other people. So Perhaps I need to share this with Wade. Maybe he needs to know about my new laptop. I could do that directly from here. And then lastly, we can see that this ticket is waiting for approval. So once it is approved, we would see some updates on this ticket as well, and we would see that the status will change. And we're going to look at that in just a second. So that's pretty much the customer focus portion of this webinar. We are going to look at this ticket now as an agent. And so I'm going to click here, and this is going to take me into the back end of JSM. And this is where your agents are going to be working. They'll be able to submit tickets from the portal as well if they'd like to, but they're also able to create new tickets in the back end, much like in Jira software with just our blue create button. But this is where our agents are going to come to actually work on these tickets. So this is the ticket I submitted, and we're going to walk through what we're looking at here now. We can see the issue key here at the top and the issue type. The summary field is here, so new laptop request. And then all of that information that I filled out on the ticket is in this section here. So we can see that I raised this request via the portal. There's a direct link to the request in the portal if we need to view that for some reason. We can see the reason my current equipment is damaged, the description field, I dropped my laptop and the screen broke. If you remember out on the portal, this field actually said any additional details, and we're going to look at how that's configured in a little bit as well. But the answer that I provided in that field was populated directly into the description field on the ticket itself. And then we can see the laptop model I selected and the assignment group. There's some other quick link buttons here as well. Create subtask. Perhaps somebody else needs to help on this ticket and we need to create a subtask and assign a job to them. We can do that. We could link another issue. We could add an additional form if needed. And then in this instance, we've also got a plugin Tempo timesheets installed. So we could track or plan some time against this ticket here if needed. Moving to the right-hand side, we see our status drop down here waiting for approval. If we click in here, we can see a couple available transitions that I'm able to execute. We can also view the workflow for this issue type directly from the ticket. If you're familiar with Jira software, the workflows in JSM are very similar. We have those familiar status categories, gray being to do, blue in progress, green done. We can see all of our different transitions here as well and the labels on those transitions. So a quick way to view your workflow directly from a ticket. Next to that, we see this actions drop down. This is where any manually triggered automations would reside if they are configured in your project. There's one here. We're not going to run that automation, but that is where you would do those on the ticket. So now we're going to talk about approvals because this ticket is waiting for an approval. We can see that it's in the waiting for approval status, and it's got this alert here, waiting for approval. So if I click in here, we can see that this is configured that one person from the approvers field must approve this ticket, but no one's been added yet. So we don't have anything set up here to automatically assign an approver, but you could do that via automation. In this case, we're going to manually add somebody. And for the sake of this demo, I'm going to add myself as the approver on this ticket. In the real world, you probably wouldn't approve your own new laptop requests, but we are going to do that just for the sake of this functionality demo. So now we see that this request requires my approval, and I can either choose approve or decline. In the workflow, it will execute two different transitions based on my choice here. So if I decline it, it will go into a different status than if I click approve. I am going to go ahead and approve this ticket. And we see now that the ticket is in a different status. So the workflow is configured to where if it's approved, it moves to this waiting for support status. And from there, we can start to work this ticket and move it into several different statuses, as you can see here. Directly underneath this, we see SLAs. And SLAs are our service level agreements, and really what those are a setting to say how quickly are we agreeing to do something on our tickets. So we can see there's two set up here: time to first response and time to resolution. So how these are set up is we're saying we're agreeing to respond to our customers within 4 hours of this ticket being submitted. Likewise, we are agreeing to resolve this ticket within 8 hours. These will display in different colors when they are in risk of breaching or have breached. So if this is getting closer to that 3:21 p.m. mark on this ticket later today, it will display a little bit differently to make itself more obvious to your agents that, hey, your SLA is about to be in breach. Maybe you should pay attention to this ticket and start working it. And we will cover a little bit of how these are configured a little bit later this morning. The next section we see is our details section. Our knowledge base field here is showing two related articles. If I click into these can be really helpful for your agents to help them resolve issues. Perhaps you've got some articles on some quick fixes or common issues that people are seeing on a ticket. This would be a great place to house that information so your agents can access those conveniently directly from a ticket. These articles are powered behind the scenes by Confluence. So if you are familiar with Confluence, you might notice some similar functionality. And we can look at one of these real quick and they will, the article's not there. So we can't look at that one, but that's okay. They look very similar to Confluence articles if you are familiar with Confluence. Going back to our ticket, we see the assignee field, convenient assigned to me if I'm just going to work this ticket myself. The reporter is the person who submitted the ticket. So again, that was me. Agents are able to change the request type. So if for some reason I submitted the request a new laptop request type, but I actually am asking for a new iPhone, we could change this request type here, and that's just going to keep things organized for reporting and all kinds of different purposes within the tool. Another field to call out here is priority. This can help draw attention to critical issues or tickets that have been submitted. This field is configured globally by your Jira admin. So the options you're going to see here in this project, you will see in all projects in your instance. So aligning on those choices across functions is helpful there. And then approvers, we see myself, I'm the person who was added and approved this ticket. Collapse our details section. The next section is more fields. These are also configured by your project administrator. These fields don't have to appear on the ticket if they're not needed. They could be moved to the details section if they need to be displayed a little bit more prominently. But essentially, these fields are going to populate here when there is no value associated to them. So if we were to add a label or a request participant, something like that, these would move into that details section. And again, they don't need to be on the ticket at all if they're not relevant or not ever going to be used on a ticket of this type. So our automation section, again, this would list the details of any automation rules that have been triggered by this ticket. We're not going to go into automation configuration in this webinar, but we do cover it extensively in our Jira Bootcamp. You can get all that information at our website, xpm.com/events. And then lastly, we see Tempo. Again, this is a time keeping app that we have installed. It is not out of the box with JSM. We're going to go back to the center section now and look at similar requests. This section is going to provide a list of other issues that are similar in terms of their summary and or their description. And we can actually see that right here, results with a similar summary and description. So Jira is looking for keywords or similar phrases and then providing us this list of all these other tickets that have been submitted that are similar. And this section can be really useful for your agents to review past tickets and help provide insight on a solution to the current problem. So if this was like an incident ticket, for instance, and we could see similar incidents that have happened in the past, maybe we click into these tickets, we see how those incidents were resolved. And again, that's helping us resolve this ticket a little bit quicker. Similar requests can also highlight the frequency in which those similar requests are being submitted in order to help create, a greater sense of urgency or show the need to look into a larger issue. So again, maybe we're getting the same incident over and over again, or something, several people have dropped their laptops and their screens have broken. Maybe we want to think about buying a different model of laptop. Maybe the ones we're using currently break really easily, and we can see that here, that several people have had issues with their laptops. And you can link these directly to the ticket using this link icon. So maybe you want to add this to your linked issues section on this ticket. You just click this, and then you can choose your link type. It is duplicated by, blocks, clones, etc. You have several options in this dropdown. And lastly, in similar requests, you see, are these results relevant? This provides feedback to Atlassian on the similar requests section. So if these are really great results and you really like this list, you can click yes. And if these are completely irrelevant and not related to your current ticket at all, you can select no and provide that feedback. Lastly, on this ticket, we have our activities section, and there's several different tabs here. This is similar to what was displayed in our customer view, but with a lot more options and a lot more information as well. So starting at the left, if we click all, we're going to see a comprehensive look at everything that has happened since this ticket was created. So 15 minutes ago, I created this issue. The workflow is configured that it needs a person to approve this ticket. From the portal, I added a comment. I added myself as an approver. I approved the ticket, and so on and so forth. We can really see everything that's happened in the life cycle of this ticket so far in our all section. If we select comments, this is where we can see both internal and external comments. So in contrast to how customers can comment on tickets, their comments are viewable by both agents and themselves. We as agents have the ability to add an internal note. And this would be only visible by other agents who have access to this project and can see this ticket. Again, there's all different kinds of formatting we can do here. We can change colors, add attachments, tables, emojis, all kinds of stuff. If I submit this comment, we can see this is differentiated in two different ways. It's highlighted in this sort of yellow or peach color, and then it's also labeled internal note right here. So it's important as agents to be aware of the comment type you are using. If you do need to add a comment that should not be visible by your customer, you're going to want to use that internal note. And then if you do want it to be visible by the customer, you're going to want to use apply to customer, and that comment will not be highlighted, and it does not display that internal note label. One other thing you can do in your comments, there's some functionality called canned responses. And the idea here is to utilize these for responses that are either high frequency, being used quite a bit on a very frequent basis, or maybe a canned response that needs to use very specific language. Maybe it's a specific policy, or maybe it's some complicated technical jargon that you just want to create a canned response and have quick access to this. There are two different types of canned responses you can create. So if I click Create New, I can make a personal canned response, which would be only usable by me, or I can make a shared canned response that would be usable by any agent within the project. And then you would just give it a name, type out your canned response, You do have some cool features here using smart values. So you could use, current user, or you could use issue reporter to actually pull that reporter's name in your canned response. So you could say, hey, Brad Wood, we're working on your issue, and pull that dynamically with this smart value. I'm going to close out of this. Our history tab is more of a truncated version of that all tab. So shows some of the history on this ticket, but not as comprehensive as our all tab. Work logs would display any time tracking information. So if your team is using this functionality, this would display here. Time and status can be helpful as well, to just maybe more of a deep dive on the ticket. So we can see here, this ticket was in the waiting for approval status for about 8 minutes, and it's been waiting for support for just over 11 minutes. And then lastly, in our approvals tab, this will display all of the activity that's happened related to approvals on our ticket. So again, more of a focused look at that activity versus our all tab. So that pretty much covers our agent experience here in JSM. Let's look at some configuration stuff now that would be done by your project admin. We're going to start with queues. So queues in JSM are how our tickets are sorted and displayed for our agents in a service project. And they are a great way for agents to quickly see a list of all open requests, or maybe all closed requests, a list of requests that meet a specific criteria. So I note that Jira Service Management doesn't really use boards like Jira Software does. Instead, we're going to use these queues. They work in a similar way as filters in Jira Software, if you're familiar with those. And like I said, you do need to be a project administrator to create and manage your queues.
If I could jump in really quickly, though, Atlassian is rolling out boards for Jira Service Management across instances right now. So it is a new feature coming out. It's not on our instance for this demo site. But as these updates are currently rolling out, you will see a new feature to enable boards in Jira Service Management.
Cool, very cool. So you may be able to use boards in your JSM instance here shortly, if that's a preferred method of working for your team. So we can see here we've got several different queues configured. We've got all open tickets, and this is just a list of every ticket in this project that is currently open. We've got some other more specific queues here, due in 4 hours, created in the last day. All my tickets, this queue will be unique for every agent. It's based on some JQL that's using the current user. So what I would see in all my open tickets queue would be different than what Wade would see, for instance. Let's go into the all open tickets queue. We can see we have several columns here. So these are configurable again by that project admin. We can see the request type, the key, the summary, who's assigned. Some of these can actually be updated directly from the queue, so you don't have to click into the ticket itself. So for instance, I could change the status on some of these tickets and save myself a little bit of time by updating these directly from a queue. Another cool thing you can do is if you select a couple of these tickets, you have some bulk actions you can run up here. You could link these issues. You could bulk comment on them. You could set the assignee for more than one ticket. You could bulk transition them, bulk approve them, or even bulk delete them. So again, saving yourself a little bit of time and able to make some edits on more than one ticket at the same time. Like I said, these queues are built similarly to filters. So let's look at how to configure that. If I go into edit queue, we can see the first thing we see here is that this is added to our team priority section. And that's just a subsection here in our list of queues. So we could toggle this on or off. And then filter by. This queue is already filtered by the project IT service desk, so you don't need to add that in your JQL here. But then this is JQL, so this is just like a filter or maybe running an automation. This is telling the filter which issues you want to see. And directly below that, where we configure our columns, that's saying what information about those issues do I want to see. So once you pull that list of issues, which columns do I want to see in my queue? So you can add things here via this dropdown. You can choose whatever field you want to display in your queue, and you can edit your filter if you need to maybe you need to be a little bit more granular than just everything is unresolved. Maybe it needs to be unresolved and it's a specific issue type, something like that. That's where you would configure this here. And then, like I said, some of our queues are on a user-to-user basis, like all my tickets. This one is not, because it's not using current user or anything like that in the JQL. So this view, all open tickets, would be global to all agents in this project. So let's talk about managing this list a little bit. So if we click Manage Queues, your project admins are able to move queues to different sections if they would like. But again, these changes are going to be global and will affect all of the agents. You simply just drag and drop these different queues around. So if you want to add something to the team priority section, otherwise they will just be in the other section. And likewise, this is where you would create a new queue. So we can click in here, and then this is exactly like we were looking at before. This is where we would name our queue, set up our filter, add our columns, etc. If you prefer to work in what Jira calls basic, you can switch to basic here, and you don't have to type out a JQL query. Instead, you get some drop downs here, which you can make some choices via checkboxes instead of needing JQL to configure that queue. Then the last thing with queues is our starred section. So this is user-to-user specific. So if I want to add a queue to my starred section so I can access it even quicker, maybe it's something I use on a constant basis, I'll just hover over the name of the queue and I'll click the star, and it will be added to my starred section. And likewise, if I want to remove it, I would just click the star again, and it would go back to the section that it is designated to be in by our project admin. So that's queues. That's how to configure them and how to use them. And like I say, agents do have a little bit of customization they can do here, but most of it is done by the project administrator. We're going to go back to our project now, and we are going to go to project settings. And we're going to talk about SLAs, which we mentioned briefly earlier, if I can get to the right section. So again, SLA stands for service level agreement, and it's the level of service that the team has committed to providing to our customers, either internal or external. That makes no difference. These can be thought of as goals that have a specific time frame in which they should be achieved. And again, you do need to be a project administrator to create and manage our SLAs. So we can see in this project, we have several different SLAs configured: time to resolution, time to first response, time to close after resolution, and time to review normal change. Let's click into time to resolution, and we'll look at how this is configured. So the first thing we're presented with is goals. Our goals, we can have several of these. We can see here there is a time goal attached to each of these goals. So the first one is within 4 hours on a sample 9 to 5 calendar, which we'll talk about the calendar in just a second. This goal will apply to incidents. So you do need to know a little bit of JQL here to configure these. Our second time to resolution goal is within 8 hours. Any service request will have the 8-hour SLA, and then there's no target for all remaining issues. So you can have as many of these as you'd like in here. Perhaps you need to be very granular with your SLAs based on ticket categories, for instance, like we have configured here. This is where you could do that. Second, our conditions section. Time will be measured between the start and stop conditions below. So this is where we tell our SLA, start counting time when something happens, pause counting time during a particular time period, and finish counting time when something else happens. So we can see we have this configured: start counting time when the issue is created or the resolution is cleared. So what that's telling me is we're going to start counting time when our ticket is reopened, for instance, and that would be when the resolution is cleared. We're going to pause counting time when we're in a pending status or waiting for customer status. That is so your SLA isn't counting against itself while your agents can't do any work on the ticket. So if the work is pending or we're waiting on our customer for more information or something like that, we don't want to be counting against our SLAs. And then we're going to finish counting time when the resolution is set. So the issue is resolved. We're going to stop counting time against our SLA at that time. I'm going to scroll to the top and talk about the calendar a little bit, because we can see sample 9 to 5 calendar. What does that mean? So let's click into calendar. This service project is only set up using one calendar currently, but we can expand this and see what this means. It is set up to be in the central time zone in the United States. That's where our organization is headquartered, here in St. Louis, in that time zone. And we have this work week set up. So it's Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. So what this means is our SLAs will only count during this time period, so 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on these days of the week. Saturday and Sunday, and before 9 a.m. and after 5 p.m., it will not count towards our SLAs, because maybe our service desk team isn't working during those hours, so they shouldn't be counted against on their SLAs. You can set up a 24-hour calendar or any other custom calendar within here. So maybe your team works 24 hours a day and they work on shifts. This is where you would configure that. You can add holidays to pause your SLAs, and you can actually even import via ICS here if you have a calendar built out in some other platform. So that's SLAs. We are going to talk about request types now. And these are all of those request types that we saw out on the customer portal. And remember that the portal is composed of request types that are in portal groups. These then create the issues in our JSM project. Each request type creates a specific issue type in JSM. So if you notice here, we have several different request types, and some of these are creating the same issue type. So an issue type can be created by several request types, but each request type can only be associated with one issue type. So this can help create some efficiencies on the back end. If you have several request types that are using similar configurations, such as workflow, screens, field configurations, etc., maybe you have those request types, like for instance, new mobile device and request a new laptop. Maybe those create the same issue type. And that's also why we saw earlier on the ticket, I was able to, I could change my request a new laptop request to new mobile device if I wanted to, because they are using the same issue type. So let's click into request a new laptop and we can see how this is configured. The first section we're looking at on our request form is on our request type is our request form. And this is what the customer is going to see out on the portal. We see this field request type description. So we can add some help text here to help explain the use of this request form to our customers. Again, promoting the use of the right request form by our customers. Directly below this is where we're going to choose the fields that appear on our request form, making sure that our customers are providing the right information for our agents to start working on their requests as quickly as possible. You can use either Jira system fields or custom fields here, and you would simply just drag and drop from this list, and you can use this search bar to find something if it's not displaying in this suggested fields section. So for example, if I want to add approvers to this form, I would just drag and drop it here. If I expand this, I have some other options here. Display name, this is where we were talking about previously. You can change the display name of the field on the request form, so your customers would see something different out on the portal. You can add a description to add some further information as to what should be in this field. And then this is also where we can set our field as required. So we saw that out on the portal. And then lastly, this use preset value and hide from portal. We could, maybe we want all of the laptop requests need to be approved by Wade, for instance, let's say. We could use that as a preset value on our form and hide it from the portal so our customers don't see that field and they don't need to worry about it. They're not going to add a value to it, etc. So that's some cool advanced functionality you can do on your fields there. Now, if we go to issue view, I'm going to say OK here. This is where we were talking about earlier, our different sections on the ticket on the back end. So this is where we configure where we want these fields to be displayed on in the agent view on the back end. So our context fields was that section we were looking at with SLAs and our knowledge base, assignee, reporter, etc. And then our hidden when empty fields was that more field section. And again, if these don't need to be on our request types, we can simply just drag these away and they will no longer be visible on those tickets. Lastly, our workflow statuses. This is going to show a list of all the statuses in the workflow that this issue type is using, or rather this request type is using. Also, status name to show customer. This is where you could configure different things to be displayed to the customer, very similarly to how we were doing with the fields. Maybe some of these statuses are a little bit too granular or detailed or technical for our customers. Maybe they don't need to know that something is pending, for instance, or it's waiting for support. We could just rename this to in progress, and several different fields could display to our customers that it's in progress, and they don't need to know much more than that. This is a way you could do that. And you can also get to your workflow directly from here as well. So lastly, I know we're coming up to the top of the hour here. I do want to touch on forms briefly because we did talk about those out on the portal. Again, these are different from our request types. They can be created if needed to capture further information for from our customers that maybe our Jira system and custom fields aren't able to gather. We can just click create form here and I'll click create blank. And we're sort of presented with a blank canvas here, and there is a ton of customizable options here for dynamic forms. If we click add field, we can see there are several different field types here that we can choose from. And we can do some of that conditional formatting we were talking about as well. So like on the HR portal form, you know, we present fields based on a certain condition, and that's why those business card fields were displayed when I chose business cards needed yes. We don't have much more time here today, so we're not going to be able to talk about forms much more, but they are covered in detail in our JSM Bootcamp. Again, the next one is going to be held on the end of January, the 23rd and the 24th, and those details are on our website as well. So, Kylie, I know we're coming up to the top of the hour. Do we want to go ahead and wrap this one up then?
Let's go ahead and do some Q&A real quick.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, looks like we had quite a few questions, and I'll also be putting in the chat all the information that Brad was sharing, as well as our email addresses. So if you have additional questions, feel free to reach out to us there as well. So I'll get those in now.
So the first question here is, what users are visible in the picker for users? Can you limit by organization? So yeah, good question. I think I'll go ahead and just take over real quick. What that question is referring to is when a ticket is submitted, who can you share your request with? And the answer is that is tailorable based on permissioning. So we can decide if we want to share it with everyone that's listed in the project, or we can limit it to people that are in a specific organization. So how we structure our customers, basically our requesters, we can limit who that is shared with. Second question, can the form include conditional logic and result in a different ticket type? That's a good question. So you can certainly use conditional logic in that form. The forms are associated to an individual request type. So if I click on computers here, each one of these is an individual request type. So the question is, based on answers that are provided on the form, can this actually be created as a second request type? Yes, in some ways it can. You can use automation for Jira once the ticket is submitted to route that to a different request type, but that is I don't know if I would say the best practice, but it is something that you could do. I think our recommendation would be to create a form that is clear and concise for that specific request type, or maybe you're routing it to a specific team based on that information. But what you are asking is essentially possible. Third question. Is there a way to see who the approver is that you are waiting on? Yes, definitely. So let's see, I don't know. Well, let's see. If I submit a new request, because I don't have any that are in. So if I submit a new request that does require an approval, we can actually route who the approver is based on automation. And I will be showing you guys that here in about an hour, but we'll see that it is waiting for one approver, but we don't know necessarily who that is. So if give me just 1 second. If I come here and I just add an approver really quickly, so what we're going to see now, if I come back out here to the portal, is that we are waiting for one approval, and it says one approver is needed, and down here it does list out that individual that is required to approve it. So if this did go to multiple people, you would see that list. Additionally, on the agent side, you will see under this approvals tab, if I refresh the screen, I believe, who we are actually waiting for approval on. I don't know why I'm not seeing it there, but if I do click approve, it will show that that Brad Wood did approve this. So Brad Wood did approve 13 seconds ago. All right. Fourth question, which version of Jira Service Management are you using for the demo? I'm wondering how we can add tables and how all of the formatting is done. It looks so different as what we got here. That's a good question. So the demos that we're doing here today are on Atlassian's cloud platform. Jira Service Management for data center is very different. one, the UI is quite a bit different, but two, between data center and cloud, there are a lot of functionality differences. So in data center, you will not get this queue breakout for service requests, incidents, problems, changes, post-incident reviews. And then all of the ITSM related functionality that I'm going to be showing you guys here in an hour, unfortunately, does not really exist on data center. So Atlassian is pouring all of their development into the cloud product. Now, some of what I will show here can be done on data center, but again, the UI is very different and the out-of-the-box configuration doesn't necessarily exist. If you were to try to do what I'm going to show later in data center, it would all be more of a custom configuration. All right. Next question. Can you have the priority calculated based on information in the request? Can you have the priority calculated based on how the information in the request is filled? Yes, definitely. So you can create essentially a priority matrix. So based on information that is selected in the fields of those forms, it can set a priority based on that using automation for Jira. Yep. And then I've got one more question here, and then
Oh, okay, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead and finish up your last one.
one more, and then I think we'll break for lunch. But are custom ticket attributes supported? Unfortunately, I don't know what that question means. If I had to take a guess, I think that you're referring to potentially custom fields being displayed on specific tickets, in which case the answer is yes. You can create individual request types and tie those to individual issue types so that each request does display different information, follow separate workflows, things of that nature. I think that might be what you're referring to. But Kylie, did you have something?
Nope, that was just it. I was just saying I've captured all of the questions, and we can reach out to you via email as well. So thank you for your questions. Unfortunately, this does have to be the end of our fundamentals portion as we hop over into our comedian and lunch section. So if you got pizza, go ahead and get it. Feel free to enjoy while we get ready for our amazing comedian. During this portion, we do encourage you to turn your videos and audio on just for the interaction piece. If you have any issues with those video, audio permissions, feel free to directly send that to me. But our comedian for today's event has been featured on Comedy Central, Amazon Prime, MTV, and BET, and his latest album, Statistically More Relatable, debuted as #1 on the iTunes comedy chart. So you're in for a real treat today. I'll be putting all of his socials in chat as well, so you can get to know him more at the conclusion of this event. But let's give it up for Adam Mamawala. Round of applause.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? How are you? Thank you so much, Kylie, for the great intro. As Kylie said, yes, definitely turn your cameras on, because as much as Kylie probably wants a private comedy show, it might be a little strange for both of us. It'll make me feel less like I am alone in a room talking to myself, which is objectively what I'm doing, but it'll make me feel less that way, and that's really what matters. So thank you all for being here. Kylie, you know what? I gotta say, you did a great job pronouncing my name. I am gonna have to roast you a little bit for saying bet instead of BET. I mean, clearly not hip with the times, but you know what? That's okay. That's okay. The funny thing about doing these sorts of events is that you're all very lucky that I'm not smart enough to work for one of your competitors, because I'm getting some real valuable inside information here. It's a good thing that it might as well be hieroglyphics to me. I don't understand any of it, but let it be known that if I were a mole, I would have some pretty good intel right now. But everyone else, thank you for being here. I'm gonna ask one more time. I know no one wants to be heard chewing, but it'll make my life much easier if I can see some of you. So even if you're muted, as long as I can see you, that will be great for me. By a show of hands, either virtual or actual hands, has anyone ever attended a virtual comedy show before?
No.
I didn't think so. I figured that might be what you would say, but you know what? You never know. You all might be virtual comedy aficionados, in which case I wanted to be prepared for that. Who does have pizza out there? Is anyone actively eating pizza? Serena, nice. What do you got going there? If you want to unmute yourself, I'd love to know what toppings you're
It's
working with. How's it?
vegetarian pizza.
Vegetarian pizza. Okay, and where are you living? Where are you based?
I'm in Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. Okay, not necessarily known for pizza, but I feel like it's more of a seafood
Yeah.
kind of lobster vibe. All right, so
I can
vegetarian
tell you,
pizza
I'm
I can live
Italian,
with.
so I'm a little judgy on
I'm
pizza, but this
I would imagine. I think you deserve to be. I am not Italian, but I do live in New York City, so I am incredibly judgmental about pizza. And I have done many of these events, and people are all over the place. They're usually eating pizza. And Serena, this is going to upset you, but some of the pizza orders really disturbing out there. I was doing a show for a pizza time event. It was a company based in Texas, and one guy was eating a Hawaiian pizza, which already bothers me. I don't think that pineapple belongs on a pizza. He compounded that order by sharing with me that he not only had pineapple and ham, but also cranberries, which honestly should not be an option at a pizza place. I'm still incensed by this. I've never wanted to fight someone through a computer screen more. But Serena, as long as there's no cranberries on your vegetarian pizza, you and I are good to go. We're fine. All right. Well, anyway, let's get started. As I mentioned, Kylie, you did a great job with the intro. I always very much appreciate it when people pronounce my name properly, because I have gotten very used to people not doing so for much of my professional life, and you can probably see why. My name is, of course, Adam Mamawala. Adam is the easy part, Mamawala less so. And I'm trying to look around in the Zoom chat to see if anybody here can relate to me. If anyone has a complicated first and/or last name, but if you do, let it be known that this next joke is for you. If you have a last name like mine, your entire life, you can always feel the exact moment when somebody sees your name for the first time. There is a moment of sheer panic that sets in that is unmistakable, that you can always identify. From the time I was a little kid in elementary school, I was always the kid who on the first day of school, the teacher would freeze at a very specific part of the attendance sheet, and I was like, well, that's me. So you get used to knowing what that face looks like. Now, Kylie, you did a great job. I don't know if you had looked me up before, but you pronounced my last name perfectly. There was no practice needed. You nailed it. You did a great job. That's not always what happens. And a couple years ago, I was doing this show in New York. I'm in the green room where all the comics kind of hang out backstage, and the lineup is posted on the wall. And the host, who is somebody that I hadn't worked with before, I see him walk up to the lineup. I see him start to panic. I immediately understand what's happening. And I walk up to him. I was like, hey, man, I'm Adam. I don't think we've worked together before. I'm assuming you just saw my name. Let me know if you need me to pronounce it for you. He's like, that's kind of embarrassing, but that is exactly what happened. If you don't mind, that would be great. I was like, no worries. It's Adam Mamawala. He's like, just your last name is fine. I was like, fair enough. Mamawala. He's like, one more time. I was like, Mamawala. He's like, last time. I was like, Mamawala. Like, I'm starting to get annoyed at this point. So he walks away. About half an hour later, he's going to bring me on stage. He comes up to me one more time. He's like, hey, man, I'm sorry to be annoying. Just like say it one more time so it's fresh in my head before I introduce you. It's like, it's all good. Mamawala. So he's like, all right, Mamawala. 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 He's like chanting my own name at me. I'm like, you're fine. He goes on stage. He's like, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to love this next comic. You've seen him all over the country. You've seen him on Comedy Central. Keep it going for Alan Mamawala. He just nails Mamawala, but completely forgets Adam. It was arguably my favorite moment of my career. It was pretty great. But people have a lot of questions. They always do, and I totally understand. You know, I've got tan skin. My last name is Mamawala, which is clearly something. And people are curious. And sometimes people come up to me after shows and they're very polite. They're like, that's a really interesting last name. Can I ask what the origin is? But every once in a while, someone walks up to my face and they're like, what are you? Afraid. And if any of you are curious, I am biracial. My dad is from India, and my mom is a tiny German lady from Wisconsin, which apparently results in a Latino man. Genetics are strange and a mystery to us all, but nobody ever guesses that, and I've just gotten used to that. I know for a fact that nobody ever knows what my background is, because a couple of years ago, I had a meeting with a casting director, and during that meeting, in a somewhat condescending tone, she looked at me and she said, you know, it's very important in this industry that you understand how people perceive you. Like, how do you think people perceive you? I was like, I don't know. I've been told I'm kind of in that ambiguous category. She's like, oh, do you mean in terms of your ethnicity or sexuality? I was like, well, I guess both now. What the heck? We just met. It's a little presumptuous. Now, do we have? You can type it in the chat or yell at me. Do we have any Indian folks here? Do I have any Indian people out there? Nobody. Let's see. I'm waiting in the chat. Oh man. All right. Well, something to work on for next time, or it's just that people are not identifying themselves. That's also totally fine. But I asked that question because the number one thing that people love to ask me when they find out that my dad is Indian is your dad disappointed that you're a comedian? Which I find that question both rude and reasonable. That's how I would describe it. Like, I understand where it's coming from, but it is a funny thing to ask someone. Now, the question exists because, generally speaking, Asian parents, they tend to be very strict with their kids. They want you to be a doctor or an engineer, and if you're not one of those two jobs, you're letting everybody down. Now, in my dad's case, that was not the case at all. He's very supportive of my dreams. His whole attitude was like, look, I moved here from India with nothing. I created this life for myself to give you and your sister the opportunities that I never had. You pursue whatever you want. Just promise me whatever it is. You're going to work hard. I think that's beautiful. That's a great attitude. That's a classic immigrant mindset. I came here. I worked hard. I expect you to work hard. But why am I not an engineer? I don't know. Ask my dad. But my dad, like when we were little, my sister and I, he wanted us to understand the value of hard work so much that he would take us out into the streets every single weekend and make us pick up cans and bottles, and then we would exchange them for like 5 cents a piece, and we would split that money, and that was the only allowance we had the entire time we were growing up. So now when people ask me if my dad is disappointed that I'm a comedian, I'm like, no, because apparently he is preparing me to be homeless. I am thriving. I am really exceeding his expectations. I am doing great. I would love to know. So I see. Oh, Samina Sagar calling me out in the chat. You know, I get it. I totally get it. And again, I feel like I keep saying it. If any of you can unmute yourselves, hearing your laughs, it gives me joy. You know how when you're like out for the whole day and then you come home and your dog is so excited to see you and it like recharges their battery? That's how I live. That's what it's like for me as a comedian. I'm powered by your laughs. So if in between chewing you can throw in some laughs there, I would love it. I'm enjoying the smiles, but the laughs would be even better. Wade and Brad are now hiding, and you know what? I know you're up to something, Wade and Brad. You were here before. Now you're gone. There's clearly something going on. I mean, I've been waiting for Wade and Brad to simultaneously heckle me like the old Muppets. I still think there's time, but we'll see. We'll see if we get there. It's hard to know. Now, I'm very curious. Where is everyone joining from today? You can type it in the chat. You can yell it at me. Like I said, I'm in New York City. I know we've got Serena in Massachusetts. Where's everybody joining from? Montreal. Very nice. Very nice. Enjoy your poutine pizza. We've got Dallas. We've got Florida. We've got Samina again. All right, Orlando. So pretty much, pretty similar time zones. Now that is a relief to me because that means that most of you are in a similar time zone, or it's at least like kind of the middle of the day. Sometimes I do these shows and then I find out that everyone is in like California and Hawaii and it's 7 a.m. for them. And I'm like, I don't know why you wanted this. This does not seem like a good idea for anyone involved. Nobody deserves to be told jokes before coffee, but good. We've got people in Orlando. We've got people in Boston. We've got people all over the place. Love to see it. Fantastic. And welcome to one and all. I'll tell you this. It does not surprise me that my parents are so supportive of me because I consider them to be people pleasers. They are people pleasers. I consider myself to be a people pleaser. Do we have any self-proclaimed people pleasers out there? Yeah, look at you, Sarah. You wave just to make me happy. You just can't help yourself. This is what we do. These people pleasers, it's a very dangerous quality because it's inherently a good thing, but people take advantage of it. I am such a chronic people pleaser that I have never not filled out an optional survey. You know, you get those annoying emails from Amtrak that are like, do you have 4 minutes to help us improve our service? And you're like, who would answer this? Me. It's literally just me and Sarah. We're the only people answering those. But they're very supportive. My mom and my dad, they are so supportive of my dreams that I know I'm never going to make it. You know what I mean? Like when have you ever once heard that be the origin story of artistic greatness? It's like, everyone believed in me this whole time. It's not how that story goes. You know, you need haters, you need doubters, but that's not me. My dad shares my stand-up schedule on his LinkedIn. I am screwed. There is no way I'm going to be a famous comedian with so much love in my life. But my parents, they're very supportive, but while they didn't make me be an engineer, they're conservative for sure, and that has shaped the person I am in every conceivable way. Like I'm a pretty clean cut guy, right? So always well behaved, always got good grades, never really acted out, never got any tattoos, never even thought about it, honestly. Anytime somebody asks me if I would get a tattoo, I'm like, a tattoo? I have stickers on my MacBook I regret. I can't risk a tattoo. I also, never really drank till I was of age, never really been a drug guy. And this, one of my favorite parts about doing these kinds of shows, as all of you are eating pizza and being nice to me, is that this is one of the few times in my life that I get to perform for a sober crowd. As you can imagine, as a comedian, most of my life I'm in dark rooms late at night. That's very funny. Tattoos, 2 or 12, there is no in between. I do feel like tattoos are kind of like cats. It's like if you have 2, you might as well have 10. At that point, why are you stopping? But most of my life I'm performing for largely drunk audiences, and yeah, mostly sober. All right, Ricky, we're gonna unpack that, but maybe we shouldn't. I love doing these shows because it's one of the only times in my life that I get to perform for a lucid crowd, and it's a new challenge. Now, I used to get very annoyed by drunk crowds, right? I'm out late at night. Drunk crowds, they can be rowdy. I can't believe I'm saying this. I kind of miss drunk crowds. And I say that because I live in New York City and marijuana just became legal here. And I'm doing a lot more shows for those kinds of crowds. Terrible comedy crowds, because a drunk crowd, they might heckle, but they are fun, right? They're having a good time. They're boisterous. They're into it. A high crowd is like, we will laugh tomorrow. We we have a lot to unpack. We're going to go home and sit with what you've said, and we will report back once we can remember what our fingers are. But it's nice to be here performing for you all. And I'll be completely honest, as I asked you before, I assume for most of you this is your first experience with a virtual comedian. I am in fact a real person. I want to be very clear that I'm not a hologram, but it is a virtual comedy show. And none of us in the comedy world thought that this would work. When everything went into lockdown a few years ago, we were all just resigned to our fate. We were like, well, it's been a good run, everybody, but our entire lives are predicated on people gathering in small rooms with low ceilings, opening their mouths a lot. It's going to be a while. We'll see you in a few years. And we just kind of went into hiding. And then I think like a week or two went by where none of us could hear ourselves talk anymore. And let's be honest, if you're doing this professionally, you are some form of narcissist. And I think we all took a long, hard look at ourselves in the mirror and we asked ourselves, who do we think we are, thinking that we're better than Zoom? Are you kidding me? Do you have any idea the sheer volume of shows I did in New York pre-COVID in front of like one uncomfortable couple in the back of a dive bar? This is so much better than much of what I devoted my adult life to. I'm enjoying myself. I really have a good time. I actually kind of miss doing these now that I'm back to doing shows in real life. I never thought in a million years I would say that, but there are advantages to doing comedy this way. For example, do you have any idea how good it felt after a decade of doing comedy in a place as difficult as New York to all of a sudden have the ability to mute people? Oh my God. 2020 was the best year of my life for crowd control. I was drunk with power. I miss it so much. Because the other thing, people would ask me a lot, like, are you, like, how is it doing these Zoom shows? Are people heckling you? No, people are largely very, very polite. And I think there's a couple reasons for that. One of them, it is largely during the day. People are, as Ricky said, mostly sober. That helps. But also, there's just not the anonymity here that you would have at a comedy club. If it's 11:30 at night, you're in a dark room. If you call something out, you're probably going to get away with it. Not the case here. So Zoom crowds, very, very polite, very nice. I've done literally hundreds of these. There's only one heckle that I got. It was one time. A guy on a similar sort of event to this typed in the chat, "Is it okay if I heckle you?" He asked permission, and I saw it, and I was like, to whoever typed that, please don't do that. And then that same guy typed, "Okay, no problem." That is the most polite heckling attempt I've ever seen. That's unbelievable. My life would be so much easier if people heckled like that at real comedy shows. I can't tell you how happy it would make me if I were on stage at an actual comedy club and some drunk guy stood up and was like, "Hey, is it cool if I interrupt you?" And I was like, "No." And he was like, "Cool," and sat back down. That would be great. I would love for that to be happening at comedy shows moving forward. Now, I see that we've got people all over the place. We've got people in Montreal and in Boston, in Florida. Kaylee, feel free to answer this if you know the answer. Were you folks working remotely always, or is this a product of the past few years? Like, what was the dynamic pre 2020?
I was going to share, like, we're a little from all over. So Valiantis, we're hosting this, but people from all over are joining. So a lot of different organizations
Cool.
present today.
Very, very cool. All right, cool. So the reason I asked that is that I think there were some people who were already working remotely for whom the transition a few years ago was a lot easier because they knew what they were doing. But for most of the rest of us, especially someone like me whose entire job is being out and about with people, it was a real learning curve. And I feel like we've all kind of figured it out now, right? Like I look around here and I see most of you have the typical background like I have. You got like the kind of blurred out thing where you're like, I'm letting you know that I am in a place, but I'm not going to give you much more information beyond that. So I think the blurred background, that's the sweet spot. Now I see we've got Ashley. It appears to have some sort of fake background, unless you are in some sort of spaceship. I can't really tell. It's very nice. Where are you, Ashley?
Starship Enterprise, somewhere close to
I
Deep Space
I
Nine.
I thought you might say that. I had a feeling that's what that was. We've got Miguel with the paid advertisement. Miguel is getting $1 per minute for every time he leaves that behind his head, which is it's a really shrewd business move. Then we've got who else? We've got Murali, who's got kind of the white background, which I think that's a strong move. That's a strong move. I respect what you're doing there. You can't let people know too much about you, and that was my favorite part of a few years ago. Was that as awful and horrifying as all that was? It was this weird moment in time where we got to find out a lot more about our coworkers than we had ever intended to, and some people were pretty open with their lives, and I kind of respect that more. Right? All of a sudden, in like mid-March of 2020, it was like, oh, I guess Jennifer from work is really into ceramic cats. That was information that I did not know until this very moment. But me, I've settled into, I use the blurry background now. I think it's the safest way to go. And it's great because I'm now in my apartment in New York. I'm back in my home place, as it were, my home court advantage. That was not the case during the early days of COVID. I was living in New York, but I left New York because my parents, they live in New Jersey. They were very worried. They were like, please, get out of New York, come down, stay with us for a couple days. Those couple days turned into 4 months. It was just myself, my mom, and my dad in a house together for 4 months. It was like a really sad version of the real world. And when I was home with them, I started doing some of these virtual comedy shows. And the only place I could get good enough service in their house was to do it in my dad's office, which then meant that every time I did one of these shows, I just had the backdrop of a 64-year-old Indian man's home office behind me, which was kind of a strange choice visually. My parents have what I can best describe as dial-up internet. They have plenty of money. They will not pay for anything beyond the lowest possible tier of Wi-Fi that they can get. The internet is so bad at their house that even though I know it's not actually happening, I swear in my head when I log in, I hear that horrible dial-up sound from the late 90s that some of us can remember, that like, if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. It's not that bad, but it is a very much you've got mail sort of vibe. And shout out to New Jersey from Ricky in the chat. But I eventually discovered that every time I did a Zoom show, other than that office, I would be frozen for half of it. And at that time, people had not learned Zoom etiquette. I think we all know at this point, if someone's frozen, you gotta tell them. It is more rude to say nothing. Not telling someone they're frozen is the internet equivalent of someone having spinach in their teeth and you just go on with your day. Like, it's worse if you don't say something. So I would do these shows and people seemingly could hear me. And then afterwards, I would get a message from the host that was like, hey, you were really funny, but you were frozen for like half of that. And I was like, why would you not tell me that information? And then you have to ask the inevitable follow up, which is, was I at least frozen in a flattering way? No one has ever looked good frozen. It's not possible. You always look like you're sneezing, and it's a real problem. So I would do these shows in my dad's office in New Jersey. And let me paint the picture for you of what the background looked like. I would say that my dad's home office is a lot like any other man's home office of a certain age. It is a strange combination of his diplomas. Then, of course, you have horribly unflattering photos of his family that none of us approved. Then you have the obligatory posters that look like they belong in like a middle school classroom somewhere. It'll just say like motivation, and there's a guy climbing rocks with no other information. But my favorite item in every dad's home office is an item gifted to him by his spouse that he is terrified to throw away. Now, in my dad's case, this particular item was was this very like poorly made dream catcher that was right behind his desk. I don't know where it's from. My mom taught elementary school for many years. My guess is that some child made it for her as a craft. She felt guilty throwing away the work of a child, pawned it off on my dad, and he was too afraid to throw it away, so it has just lived in that office for 20 years. So every time I did a show, the main thing visible behind me was this large dream catcher. And at a certain point, I got to tell you, I felt like it was taunting me, because when you are a man in your mid 30s attempting to do stand-up comedy, sitting in your dad's office chair in suburban New Jersey, it really feels like all the dreams have been caught. Do you know what I'm saying? It was a bleak time for me. But I told this story in front of my parents at a show last year, and about a week later, I got a piece of mail, a large piece of mail from my dad. And good news, everybody! I've got the Dreamcatcher. He sent it to me. I do have it in my possession now. I'm not a prop comic, but just for the purposes of this joke, I'll show you the fine craftsmanship. Here we go. We've got some yarn. We've got some various beads and feathers. It looks like there was some sort of massacre on Sesame Street, but I do have it in my possession now. I'm happy to have it with me for all these shows. The funny thing is, at the time, I just thought my dad was being funny, and then I was doing a Zoom show, and somebody typed in the chat, they're like, "You realize your dad just figured out a way to get rid of that, right?" And I was like, "Man, that is exactly what he did. Good for him." I didn't even, he's very sneaky. He totally pulled that off, and I did not realize that's what he was doing. But the most common conversation that I had with my dad during those months that I was home was there's a stereotype, okay, that Indian people are cheap. I want to say right now, loud and clear, that is not true, but it is complicated. Indian people, at least in the case of my dad, incredibly generous about large sums of money, and then exponentially cheaper the smaller the amount of money is, because in his words, it's about principle. I don't know if it's a my dad thing. I don't know if it's like an immigrant parent thing. Some of you are laughing in a way that makes me think that you know exactly what I'm talking about. But for example, and by the way, you can hear the sirens in the background. I just wanted to set the stage that I am in fact doing this from New York. At the time that I was living with my parents, my dad at random times would walk into my room out of nowhere and be like, "Look, I know you're not able to do comedy right now. I'm worried about you. What do you want? Do you want $5,000? It's yours." And if I had said yes, he would have given it to me, no questions asked. All right. And yet at that same time, my parents were still on my cell phone plan because they refused to get smartphones until like 2 years ago. And don't even get me started on the fact that they are Android devotees and will never switch to iPhone. That's neither here nor there. But they were still on my cell phone plan, and we shared data at that time. And every month, rather than divide that cost evenly 3 ways, my dad would go to the Verizon website and look up the exact percentage of data that he had used that month. And then he would calculate that amount to the exact penny and mail me a check. He would not use Venmo. He will not use PayPal. He sends me a physical check in the mail, which, if I'm being honest, I'm surprised he doesn't invoice me the extra 50 cents for the stamp, but that's neither here nor there. So once a month, I would get this infuriating check from my dad for like $18.31. And it was slowly driving me insane. And I finally had a chance to talk to him when I was home. And I was like, "Dad, I don't understand how it is possible that you live in a world where you would give me $5,000 without thinking twice about it, but you're not rounding 1831 up to 20. Like, make that make sense to me. I don't understand it." And he could not grasp what I was trying to say. So I was like, "Dad, forget about the Verizon bill. Let me try to explain this to you differently. Let's just say, for the sake of the argument, that you and I went out to eat, okay? And we got mozzarella sticks, and there were 10 of them, and they cost $10. And I ate 6, and you ate 4. When we got the check, would you seriously ask me to give you $6? And I could see him like absorbing this question. And he looks back at me and he goes, "Adam, of course not. What about the tip?" I was like, "Oh my God, man, I feel he's missed the point. I'm not I'm not getting through to him." Now, before I get out of here and leave you to the rest of your pizzas and the rest of your day, first of all, thank you again, Kylie, for having me. I know you shared my information. Feel free to look me up later. I am very easy to find. If you can spell Mamawala, you will find me. If you can't spell Adam, frankly, I don't know that I want you as a follower. I think that's the bar for who I want following me and who I do not. But I am easy to find, so feel free to look me up at any point. You have been a very lovely audience. You have been a great Zoom audience. That is largely the experience that I have had. It is not always the experience I've had. And before I go, I will tell you one quick horror story of the worst show that I did on Zoom. It was 3 years ago, maybe even to the exact day. It was December of 2020, and I was doing a lot of shows at that time because it was the end of the year. Everybody had gone back inside, and a lot of companies had extra money for all the holiday parties that they weren't able to throw in person. I was getting a lot of requests to do year-end holiday comedy shows. It was great. Gave me something to do. I wore this sweater for almost all of them. But I was not always set up for success in these situations. Here, and Kylie, I thank you again, I feel set up for success. The communications was good. You all knew that there was going to be a comedy show, I think. That's a good thing. Surprise comedy, never a good idea. I don't know why people think it is. It is not. If you're at a comedy club and Jerry Seinfeld stops in and surprises everyone, sure, that's exciting. But if I just show up in your Zoom call, you're like, who is this person? Anyway, Kylie is awesome. I co-sign that, Ashley. You are correct. The toughest Zoom show I did in December of 2020, I got asked to do a show for about 500 healthcare workers in New York City. These were nurses and doctors. Lord knows they had been through hell that year. I was very happy to have the opportunity to lift their spirits and cheer them up, put a smile on their faces. However, the intro to me doing 45 minutes of corporate clean comedy was just a 15-minute COVID montage. The woman running the meeting shared her screen and proceeded to show a PowerPoint presentation of horrifically upsetting images. I'm talking like refrigerated trucks and nurses with the rings around their eyes and graves, like literally with the music in the background, I kid you not, of that Enya song that's like, who can say where the road goes? And if I had to guess, I would say conservatively, at least 93% of these 500 people were visibly crying, some of them weeping. It was bad. The slideshow finally ends. She unshares her screen and, with no transition at all, goes, well, folks, I know that was tough to watch, but good news, we've got someone here to cheer you up. And then, as if that wasn't bad enough, 4 words that are seared into my memory for the rest of time. Take it away, Alan. How has this happened? Ricky just said it in the chat. I don't know how this has happened twice. Clearly, I'm giving off Alan vibes in a way that I'm not trying to, but this has happened twice now. Thank you so much, Kylie and everyone, for joining today. I really appreciate you having me. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful holiday season. And if there's one thing I want you to take away from this, no cranberries on pizza. I can't stress that enough. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks for having me. And I'll
give
see
it
you
up for
folks sometime
Adam.
soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right,
You were
bye-bye.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care.
Thank you. Guys, that was awesome. I'm so glad you got to be here for that. Adam was wonderful. Love the integration in the chat. Thank you for your patience as I was allowing everyone to chat in there. So I got a lot of direct messages, but tried to send those on to Adam. So awesome. Okay, we are going to take a quick break, but before we do that, I did want to put in the chat a winner that we have for our Jira Service Management Bootcamp giveaway. So we're going to have a few of these throughout our last portion of our presentation today. But first of all, I would like to congratulate our first winner. Drum roll, please. Brian Gallo. So I'll put your name in chat. We have a ticket to our Jira Service Management Bootcamp. There's also a link in there that you can read about the upcoming trainings itself. If anyone is interested in joining that course, we try to offer those on a 6 or so week rotation. So we have the next few for 2024 posted, but there will be more if those dates do not work for you. If you have any additional questions about that specifically, I'll put our emails in chat one more time. You're welcome to ask questions about that. But for those of you that got your pizza, I'm so glad. Hope you're enjoying it. If you have pineapple on your pizza, I am one of those people, so I am with you. I would not do the cranberries though, so that took it a little too far. But thank you everyone so much for your engagement so far. We have one more portion of our double feature today, JSM for ITSM. That'll be coming up at 1 p.m. Central. So we'll go ahead and just take a quick break. And I'll start. I'll be back on at 5 till. But if you have any questions, feel free to let us know. And thanks again so much for being here. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. We're still going to wait just another minute to give everyone time to come back from lunch and just taking a break. We're glad to have you back, and we will get started with JSM for ITSM in just 1 minute. All right, it is the top of the hour. Just want to be mindful of time today. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Hope everybody had a good break. I am going to put in our second winner for another ticket to our Jira Service Management Bootcamp in the chat here in just a moment. So, and then if you have questions about that, feel free to send them my way. So congratulations to Murali Makam. Apologies if I said your name incorrectly, but I'll send you a link to that course, as well as I'll be following up with email to get you your ticket and pick the dates that'll work for your course. So thanks for attending, and we hope you enjoyed that class. Without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Wade, who is going to walk us through Jira Service Management for ITSM.
Hey everybody, my name is Wade Cornett. It's nice to meet you all. I do recognize quite a few names out here in the audience. And I hope you all enjoyed your pizza as well as the comedian. That was a lot of fun. So after he left, I was thinking about, what joke could I tell to everybody on the webinar to kick this off? And so considering we all had pizza, something I truly believe is that every pizza is a personal pizza if you believe in yourself. So I know I finished mine. But anyways, we are going to get into the ITSM portion of our webinar where we are going to focus more on the ITSM feature set that you do get in Jira Service Management Cloud, and how that can be utilized in an end state. So Brad did a wonderful job walking us through kind of the basics of Jira Service Management, the Help Center, how things are structured. But these are going to be 3 targeted demos around service request management, incident management, and change management. So for the sake of time, this demo does actually take a little bit more time. So I'm going to try to make sure that we get everything in here and also have time for questions at the end. I'm going to go ahead and just jump right into it. So here we are back on our Help Center. And right now we're going to focus on my first demo, which is service request management. And to do that, I'm going to come to our IT Service Desk portal. And similar to Brad's example, I'm also going to request a new laptop. Only this is going to be a little bit different, right? So the form is the same, but the functionality is different than what you saw. So right now I'm submitting this request on behalf of myself, and I'm now presented with this option, which you saw, which is the reason for requesting a new laptop. And in my example, I'm going to use the reason I'm requesting a new one is because my equipment is damaged. And I can provide any additional details as to why that is. So maybe something like my spilled pizza on my laptop. And then the last question that I'm presented with was, which model would you like? So as Brad mentioned, this is an asset object field, which is a custom field in Jira. However, it does pull information out of our assets database, and we're going to be taking a deeper look into that here in just a minute. But what we're viewing right now are the laptop models that we have in stock. So to be clear, these are not like the individual laptops. These are just the models that we as an organization have purchased and offer people to select. Now, there's some things happening that you're not necessarily seeing, such as I'm only displaying objects in this field that are actually labeled as in stock. right? So I have a status field on all of my hardware with in stock, out of stock, damaged, you name it. And in this case, I'm just displaying those laptops that are in stock. So if I was the last person to request a MacBook Pro 13-inch, and that was the last one in stock, the person coming to submit a request behind me would not be able to select that, right? Because it would be out of stock. But that is configurable and tailorable to how you would like to work. So in my case, I'm going to go ahead and just select a MacBook Pro 16-inch, and I'm going to submit my request. So the process remains the same, right? I've submitted my request. I've provided all of my information, and it has gone for approval. But if I jump to the agent side of Jira Service Management, we're going to see that a couple things, in addition, are happening to the demo that you saw, an hour ago. So, coming down here, looking at the information that was submitted, I see the reason that I've requested a new laptop, which is because it was damaged, the description, and then the model that I've requested. So taking a look at this asset object field, the reason these are different is because we're pulling additional information out of assets and displaying it here for the agent to have any additional information that maybe they need to fulfill this request. So in this case, I'm seeing all of the details of the MacBook Pro 16-inch. Only the difference here is that Automation for Jira has actually ran and updated the status to being offered as opposed to being in stock, right? Because I've requested this. Now one has been offered for me. Interesting. Well, does seem like something is not working here. So ideally, what would have happened was because I submitted this request, the automation should have run and found my MacBook that I currently have and listed it here in the affected equipment field. So that association should have happened automatically. And because automation found my laptop, it's actually the laptop that I'm currently using today. It's set to look at this field, the reason I'm requesting a new one. And the reason I selected this, that I've requested a new laptop, is damaged. So we'll have actually updated the laptop that I currently have, which is another 16-inch MacBook, the individual serial number, and set the status to actually be damaged, right? Because that's the reason that I'm requesting a new one. And I do apologize. I know we've been doing some work in our demo site, so it looks like some things have broken. But another thing that should have happened is that when I submitted this request as myself, Wade, it should have pulled into the gone into the asset management database and found my manager and automatically set them in the approver field. So in this case, my manager is Brian Darr. So he should have automatically been set as the approver and been notified that, hey, Wade has requested a new laptop, and please approve or deny this request. And then once that was done, we could fulfill the request. So I do apologize for that, but let's not let that stop us right now. And let's go ahead and take a look in the assets database, and I'll show you guys how this is structured and set up. So in all instances now, which this is a relatively new update, you will see this assets tab up here at the top in the top banner bar. But assets is a premium only feature. So if you are on Jira Service Management Standard, you will see the assets tab. And if you click on it, it'll say, oh, please start a free trial or upgrade to premium. But if you are on the premium tier of Jira Service Management, assets is included in that. So if I click in here, just to give you a quick run through of how things are structured. So within assets, everything is structured as an object schema. And these can be completely unrelated or related to one another. So in this case, we have our CMDB, we have a CRM schema, we have a schema for all of our employees and their information. And then we also have a schema for our employees' assets. So what I want to go ahead and first do is take a look at those assets themselves. And what's built out here are a combination of object types and objects. So on the left-hand side, we're going to see that we have multiple object types, such as hardware, and then under that, we have childs of that hardware, which are laptops, monitors, and phones. So if I click into the laptop object type, I will see a list of objects themselves. And each one of these is unique and assigned to an individual. So in this case, if I find my laptop, here we go. I can see that this is assigned to myself because I also exist in the assets database. And we're going to see that there are two references on this laptop. Such as the model, which is what was being displayed out to our end users to request which laptop they would like. And then there's a reference being made to my object type, so my user. And we can quickly jump between the two. But what I also want to show you is this issue view over here to the right-hand side. And what this is showing us is these are all of the tickets in Jira Service Management that this specific laptop has ever been referenced on. So, you can, report on or query on any ticket that has had this laptop associated on it in this case. But, it goes further than that in that any asset object that is referenced on a ticket will show here. So you can find that information really quickly and say, oh, what was this? Why has Wade requested so many new laptops and why are they all damaged? Like what's going on there? And, having done a lot of these demos in the past, I think you'll find that the reason they're damaged is all food related. But if we jump over here to my object, we're going to see some information about myself. So I've got, my name, my employee status, and then also my user. So this user field is actually a reference to my Atlassian account. And this allows us to, well, in a perfect world, I don't know why our demo is broken, but do all of the association, right? So by referencing my user on my my object, my personal object here, I am able to automatically set my manager for approvals. I'm able to pull in any reference that I have. So for example, I have an inbound reference of this laptop. So anytime I were ever to submit a laptop request or maybe an IT related request because something isn't working, it will pull, Jira Service Management will pull whatever equipment I have associated to me and display that to the agents so that they can better fulfill this request. Then I can also see other information such as the location that I work, what department I'm in, and who my manager is. And then within assets, we also do have just really quickly the ability to view everything as an object graph. So I can, in some ways, see, what are my inbound and what are my outbound references. Jumping back here, So those taking a look at, the IT employee assets, and I showed you my employee card. We do have our organization listed out here, with each individual's having their information, and ideally this, would apply to everybody, that when they submit a request, all of that information is displayed to those agents. But assets can be so many more things than that, right? It can act as a traditional CMDB. And I can also tell you at Valiantus internally, we use assets as our CRM in combination with Salesforce. And it happens to work really well, although I don't think anything is built out in here. So within assets, there is also the ability to run discovery scans. And there's a lot of documentation out there on Atlassian's website on how to run those scans and what is actually discovered in those scans. But those scans do import everything as kind of a standard object schema. And this is essentially what that will look like once you have those scans set up and configured appropriately. We'll see a list of everything that was discovered, and it will reference all of that information to the reference points that are defined in those discovery scans. And all of this can be used in conjunction with our incident and change management, problem management practices. So we're going to see a little bit more of that once we get into our next demo. So yeah, it's going to be assets, but jumping back to that service request, ideally that automation would have worked. But from there, once my manager were to approve that request, then that ticket could have been fulfilled and the laptop could have been issued and exchanged. All right. Well, now I am slightly worried about the rest of my demos and their functionality, but if you guys have any questions about anything I'm talking about today, please feel free to put those questions in the chat and we will get to those at the end. But I'm going to go ahead and jump to our next demo now, which is going to be incident management. So a couple things to note about the incident management. This is going to be in combination with Jira Service Management and OpsGenie. So OpsGenie is an alerting tool that does come included with the with any tier of Jira Service Management. So whether you're on the standard or the premium tier of Jira Service Management, you will get OpsGenie included in that. And there are a lot of new things coming out related to OpsGenie in that very soon in 2024, OpsGenie will be virtually completely merged with Jira Service Management. I'm not sure of a date, but Atlassian did confirm that actually yesterday that they are planning for early Q1, Q2 of 2024 to have that functionality completely merged. But let's go ahead and take a look at how things are today. So what I'm going to show you now is a demo of an end user submitting an incident and what that process looks like. And then I'll talk about how OpsGenie can also create incidents from monitoring tools as well. So if I come down here and I select my application, I do have a request type out here to report a system problem. And if I click into this, I have a brief form, right? So in this case, summarize the problem that you're experiencing. And I can say, for example, the website is down. And so, oops. So in this scenario, we have an end user who is submitting a problem or an incident or some sort of outage. And we have the ability to describe, maybe what happened and how it occurred. I'm not sure. And then we can select our affected services. So services are going to be anything that you as an organization own or are monitoring, whether those are servers, applications, software, you name it. You can list those out as services, and when defining those services, there's a lot of control that we have over how those alerts are routed, and things like that. And I'll walk you through that here in a little bit. But in this case, I'm saying that I am experiencing an issue with my website, so I will go ahead and select that as my service. So I've got a couple more fields that I can add, such as attachment, the urgency, as well as the impact, but I will go ahead and skip those for now. So now I've submitted my incident, or just that I have a problem. I don't necessarily need to know that this is an incident. And a couple of things are happening. So when it comes to feature set, the incident management feature in Jira Service Management Cloud is probably the most robust feature set out of all of them. You get a lot of functionality here, and Atlassian really is pouring a lot of resources into this. So I'm going to walk through what some of those are, and then we're going to dive really quickly into Opsgenie. So I have my incident submitted now, and because I have my services defined, it acts as an asset object field, and these services, they do live in assets, but they're actually defined within the Jira Service Management project itself. And we'll see here that for the services, I have my website selected. And if I tab into this, I can see some information, with like maybe the description of the website and then the tier of service that it is. In this case, I've labeled it as a tier 1. But the important thing here to notice is that there are 17 open incidents on this service. So, for quickly trying to swarm around this incident and get it resolved as soon as possible, it can be very helpful to see, oh, hey, there are a lot of incidents coming in. Perhaps I should make this a problem ticket. But we can see all of that information right here. A lot of tickets have been generated, and the web, all saying that the website is down. So there is clearly a problem going on. And so using these services like this can really help you quickly identify, the root cause and what is happening. And then scrolling down here, another really nice feature of incident management, if you're doing change management in Jira Service Management, you can also see all of the changes that have been made on those services to also help you identify that potential cause of the incident, right? So if I click into this, I can see all of the previous changes that are older than, well, there hasn't been any in a while, but in this case, changes that are older than 6 months that have been made to the website service. And I can jump over to this change ticket, and I can see all of the information that was submitted, such as, oh, it was a normal change. What was the impact? What was the urgency? What was the change risk? Why were we making this change? What was the implementation plan, the backout plan, the test plan? When did it occur? Who approved this? All of this, right? So all of this information is presented to you up front on the ticket that has been submitted just by selecting and using the affected services field. There's a whole lot more though, and I'm going to get into services here in just a minute. But if I come back to my incident, another feature that is designed to really help us identify, hey, what is the potential cause or what is the root cause of these incidents, is this investigate feature. So what this does is, if you have your CI/CD pipelines connected to Jira Service Management, you will be able to see all past deployments on a given service. And we're actually going to walk through that in the change management demo. But we can see here that on December 4th, there was a successful deployment on our website service. And so if I were able to click into this, I can see, okay, this was deployment 180 to our production environment. And I can select this as a potential cause to, hey, this could have been the reason, this outage is occurring. And now I can jump over to Bitbucket. I could jump into Bitbucket, reviewed that code that was actually deployed and say, oh yeah, this was the issue right here. Let's go ahead and make a change and get this resolved. All of this is presented to you right on the ticket. So, jumping back, I can see past deployments from November 27th, November 20th, and I can identify and dive into each one of these and label them as potential causes. So all of that is to help you identify those potential causes or the root cause of the incident. But I want to take a step back really quickly and just speak about services. In our project, our services are defined here over in this left-hand tab. And we can list out some specific information about our services so that we can do things like change management and track those deployments. So when we're creating a service, we can define our service relationships, so our upstream and downstream dependencies on those services. So in this case, our website actually has a relationship with our payment system, our inventory system, and our loyalty program. So the website depends on all of these things to function. So when incidents do come in and there is an outage, we can say, oh, it was on the website service. There could be a potential impact on all of these other services downstream. And then we can label out who our service owners are. So in Opsgenie, we will define a team. In this case, the service owner of the website is going to be the IT ops team. So all of those alerts are going to be routed to them, and they will be notified. We can also set the change approvers. So whenever a change request is submitted with this service selected, it'll automatically be routed to that to this group here for approval. If you are using Compass, you can connect Compass to the service, and you can also identify a repository. And in our case, we have our XPM demo site repository connected to our website service. And we're going to get into Bitbucket and gating deployments and a bunch of fun things when we talk about change management. But I do want to go back to that incident and dive a little bit deeper into the alerting capabilities and Opsgenie functionality. Like I said, there are a lot of features here around incident management, so I'm going to keep calling those out, and then we'll jump to Opsgenie. And a lot of these features are actually powered by Opsgenie, even though you're not seeing it yet. So first off, we do have this toggle for major incident. So when we toggle this on, it does route it to a specific queue named major incidents. And then we also have this major incident label up here at the top. Now, on its surface, you would think that the major incident toggle has a lot of features tied to it. In this case, it really is just a label, but you can tie automation to that label being toggled on to do all sorts of different things. So there is a lot of feature and potential using the major incident toggle, but out of the box, it is really more of a label and a routing capabilities. Moving further down to the right-hand side, we do have the ability to start a conference call directly from the ticket. So this will spin up a conference bridge actually over in Opsgenie, regardless of whatever meeting platform that you have. And so this incident command center will actually persist for the life of the Jira Service Management ticket until it is resolved. And the way this presents is that for anybody that comes to the incident ticket, in this case, ISD 618, we will be able to join this conference call directly from the ticket. And so anybody else can jump on the bridge and, check the status, see how things are going, and things like that. Additionally, if you have Slack connected, you can create a chat channel in Slack and connect it to the incident. So a lot of people that are using Slack do have that information or have that capability set up so that when an incident is created and maybe it's a major incident, let's go ahead and create a channel over in Slack so that we can all communicate there in real time. And then that would display here. I'll get into responders here in just a minute when I'm talking about OpsGenie, but we can also identify our stakeholders. And so when we do that, what actually happens on these incident tickets is that we have a new comment option. So before we had the ability to add internal comments and the ability to add external comments, but now on incidents, we do have the ability to kind of have this third comment option, which is inform stakeholders. And this performs a little bit differently than the normal comment system in that it's more of an email, right? So we can provide these stakeholders, what is the current status of the incident? And, when is this expected to be resolved? Any information that you want to provide will go to the stakeholders that are actually listed out here, as opposed to maybe everyone that has access to this ticket. So now a lot of the feature set that you're seeing here today is powered by OpsGenie. And so to just give you a quick view of that, I can come over here to the left-hand side and click Alerts. And this is going to take me over to OpsGenie. And now we'll see here that an alert was created in OpsGenie that the website was down, and it has gone to the IT ops team and notified that on-call individual. So the reason that has happened is because we have selected our website as our service, and that has automatically generated this alert over an OpsGenie and notified that that team. So we can see some of the information has been passed along, the description, the priority. We can also see the status of the incident that was raised. And then we can see down here at the bottom, the linked Jira Service Management ticket, the incident that was submitted. And we can quickly navigate back to that if we had to. But in OpsGenie, we can see our activity log, right? So we can see, hey, this alert was created. A notification was sent to Brian Darr because he is the one. He's the one on call today. He did receive the alert, but he has not seen it. So if Brian was to actually open that email, you would see here that Brian Darr did look at the email, but hasn't done anything with it. And then we can also see again, the responder states. So in this case, that email was sent, but not seen. And so in an effort to not necessarily be working out of two tools, we do have the ability to just work the Jira Service Management ticket and have that update the alert in OpsGenie. So for example, if I assign the ticket in Jira Service Management to myself or someone else, like if it is assigned or if it is transitioned to in progress, the alert over in OpsGenie will actually be acknowledged, right? So we're not working out of two different platforms and having to do duplicate work. Just working this ticket will acknowledge the alert, stop that from escalating. And then when the issue in Jira Service Management is closed, it'll also go ahead and close out that alert in OpsGenie. Let's see, so if I refresh, we'll see that just by assigning the ticket or transitioning it to in progress, that now this alert has been acknowledged. So getting into Opsgenie just ever so loosely here, Opsgenie is structured around teams. So each team in Opsgenie will have their own on-call schedule that is completely configurable based on your guys' schedules. And you can see, who's on call at any given time. So in this case, we have our day shift, our night shift, and our weekend shift defined on different rotations. We can also add in any overrides. Perhaps, in this case, Brian is actually sick today, so maybe I need to come in and add myself as the on-call member for that time for Brian. Or maybe Brian just has to step out because he had an emergency. I can actually just take the on-call schedule for an hour, right? So now I'm actually on call and all alerts will be routed to me. So we can define our on-call schedules, define our escalation policies. So if this alert is not acknowledged within 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, escalate to these individual people, or route this alert appropriately using routing rules. So if the alert is P3 or greater, then follow the escalation policy, right? Maybe we're notifying everybody that is on call or everybody that's listed out on that on-call schedule rather than just one user. So the idea of Opsgenie is that it sits between you and your monitoring tools to alert you on many different events that are happening. In the use case that you just saw, it was an example of an end user identifying an outage on a website. So they did go to the portal, they submitted a request and said, hey, there's an outage on this website, and a responder was notified. But this also works in another direction, right? It's not always dependent on the end users identifying those problems. We can establish integrations between monitoring tools and Opsgenie. So Opsgenie has a lot of pre-built connections that can generate alerts and route to teams based on whatever criteria that you define. Right, so just kind of quickly going down this list of integrations, there's probably multiple products that you guys are using that you're seeing here. You can connect Opsgenie in these pre-built connectors to those products so that if a server goes down, if an application that you're monitoring does go down, you can have an alert generated over an Opsgenie and notify the appropriate responding team, but also have a ticket in Jira Service Management auto-generated with the appropriate affected service listed out on it, just by passing that information on from your monitoring tool or whatever's connected, to Opsgenie, and then of course to Jira Service Management. So there are a lot of integrations here. These are all pre-built connectors. So I would highly encourage you guys, if you do have Opsgenie and you are trying to use incident management, to look through this list and see what connections that you can establish. I will say a lot of these connectors are very good, but in some cases there may be additional connections that are required to meet your requirements. And for that, we do have the ability to just create our own API integrations with those platforms. So that's kind of the incident process and how everything, either from an end user being submitted or from a monitoring tool, can connect and route to the appropriate responding teams, to the individuals that can ultimately resolve this issue, this outage, you name it. And so once the once the incident is resolved, we can go ahead and add a post-incident review. So just by clicking this button up here at the top, we're presented with this information to fill out information for our post-incident review. So I'll just say PIR for ITSD 618. And I'm not going to fill out any information. But what this is going to do now is I've got a new issue created, and it's linked back to that incident. And what's really cool is I'm going to see maybe all of the incidents. If there were multiple that have come in, they'll all be referenced here under the linked issues and then the primary incident that was triggered when we added that PIR. And we can see an entire timeline of events that actually happened, right? So from when the issue was created, who the responders were, every update that actually happened. And in my case, the incident is still ongoing because I actually did not close that incident out. But over here in the incident summary, I can see kind of all of that information in a quick, digestible manner. And now one really nice thing is once you've gone through and you've done your post-incident review process and you've got all the information here, rather than having to go look back into a queue or do a JQL search for the incident, maybe you can't remember that incident key. What we can do is we can automatically you can automatically export it to Confluence. What I'm doing is manual, but I can press this export to Confluence option. I can pick a space to export it to. And in this case, I'm just going to pick my personal space. And I could specify a page if I had one, or I can create a new one and give it a title. And in this case, I'll say, again, the same thing, PIR for ITSD 28. So now I'm exporting all of this ticket data over to Confluence so that if you had a post-incident review space in Confluence, you could quickly go there, find the latest incident or search for the incident that you were looking for and see all of that information that as a roll-up in one clear and concise knowledge base article. So when it was created, when it ended, how long it took to resolve, any information that was provided, and then that whole timeline of events that actually happened. And anything else you want to capture. This whole process is highly configurable, and you can capture whatever information you would really like and pass it over to Confluence in this nice digestible format. So what I want to do now, there's a lot there with incident management. There's a lot more that I think we could talk to. But I want to make sure that we have time for change management because there are some really cool features here as well. And I want to make sure I have the time to get to those. So switching the conversation to change management, there's kind of three parts to this. I am a little bit worried about time. So what I'm going to do really quickly is I'm going to submit a change request kind of in this old-fashioned manner, right? So I'm going to come out to my portal and I'm going to go ahead and request a change. And this is that lengthy form that we're all used to. It's the same thing every time. We're going to input all of our information. So I'll just say change for website. I can add a description. And then I'm going to select that website service now, just like we did for the incident. And then I can put the change type, the impact, the urgency, all the normal stuff. But what I do want to do really quickly is select a planned start and planned end date for this change so that I can show you guys the change calendar. And so now I've gone in, I've created this change with all of the required information. And now a couple of things have happened. It's one, gone to CAB for approval. So it's listed out all of the approvers that are in our CAB group that can approve this. But it's also done a couple other things that we've seen once now. It's pulled in that website service just to show us, hey, you're about to make a change on the website service, but in case you didn't know, there are 17 open incidents on that service. So do you really want to go ahead and approve this change until those are resolved, or do you want to do that now? Or is this, an emergency change to fix that, right? It's not telling you what to do. It's just presenting you with that information so that you can make a clear decision. And then down here at the bottom, there's this automated risk assessment, which really is just what it's doing is it's trying to identify, are there any conflicts on the change calendar that overlap with the time that you're trying to make a change, which is between December 7th and December 9th. And are there any open incidents? So if I click into the change tab, there's no conflicting changes or freeze windows for this period of time. So we're good there. But by the way, there are 17 ongoing incidents for this service right now. And so those are a couple of the features related to change management. There is a built-in change calendar. So when I selected those planned start and planned end dates, that went ahead and put my change on the change calendar. And I can see that here. So when I click into this, I can see again, there's 17 incidents on the website service right now. But here is some additional information, such as, when this is planned, when it's planned to end, the duration, the risk, the priority, and which affected service this changes on. So this is the manual process, right? It works well. Everybody knows how to do that. But the exciting part of this demo is what I'm going to show you is how do we automate this process? How do we automate our standard changes? How do we automate our normal changes that do require an approval to an extent, right? So we can actually gate our deployments using Jira Service Management and Bitbucket and Jira software. And I'm going to go ahead and get into that now, but for the sake of time, I'm not going to show you the standard change process because it's essentially the normal change without an approval. So for example, if I come over to my Jira software project, let's just say that I'm a developer and now we're not using that website service anymore, but I need to make a change to our mobile application. So I've got a story out here over in Jira software. And if I come over to Bitbucket and I go to my mobile app repository, I'm just going to make a quick change to this README file. And bear with me just a second. So I'm going to go ahead and make a change. And now I'm going to commit this change, and I can add a commit message, and I will say something like change for SSP dash 95. So I'm going to reference the issue key of this story that I'm working on in my commit message. And I will go ahead and commit that. And so do bear with me for just a second. So this change is being deployed. So that is currently happening. And if I jump back to my story, which says update mobile application, because I referenced the issue key in my commit message, it did add one commit to my story. So I can see that. I can see that commit here. And now if I do come back, and this is still in progress, but a couple things are happening right now. So I'm trying to deploy this code, but you can see here that the deployment was not successful. It was actually paused because I'm making a change to my mobile application, which is listed out in Jira Service Management as a tier 1 service. So we have gone in and identified anything that is a tier 1 service is going to require a normal change, and it's going to have to follow our normal change process, meaning it needs to be approved by CAB, right? So Bitbucket and Jira did not let this code actually be deployed to the production system because a change request is pending. However, what's happening right now, and it does take just a minute, Automation for Jira is running, gathering all of that information, and it's automatically creating a change ticket for us over in Jira Service Management. So in just a second, we will see a link over here that we can follow to the change ticket that was automatically generated for us. So give me just 1 second. And if you guys do have any questions, please feel free to put those in the chat, and we'll get to those at the end here. Although now, I'm wondering if my automation is not working. Let's go over to J. Oh, there we go. So now I do have that link here that does say view change request. And if I follow this link, we're going to see this change request was automatically generated. So it says deployment 38 for XPM Demo mobile app, branches master to production. And so we've pulled in our affected service. So the service that we were making the change on, in this case, our mobile application, which is a tier 1 service. And whatever other information we wanted to populate could be populated. In this case, we're not populating anything. But the important thing to note here is that the story over in our Jira software project is now linked to this change ticket, and it has already gone to CAB for approval. Additionally, that code was not deployed until CAB has approved this. So CAB goes in, they approve. Now this is transitioned to a waiting implementation. Now, if I go ahead and actually transition this to the implementing status, what's going to happen in just a second is, because the change was approved and transitioned into implementing, the code is automatically being deployed, right? Somebody doesn't have to go back in, go through that process all over again. Ultimately, you're gaining a lot of efficiency here by doing this. And now, what we'll see, and then I'm about to open it up for questions, is once this deployment is successful, it will go back over to Jira Service Management and transition this change to completed, which you just saw there. So a lot of efficiency gains and a lot of possibility around gating changes, as well as automating the standard change process, right? So in that standard change demo, which I didn't show you, if I was making a change to a tier 3 service, which in our case we'll say only requires a standard change, doesn't need an approval, but you do want a change request generated to, for auditing, for tracking, reporting purposes. When you do make that change, a change ticket will be automatically created with all of the information that you would like to pass along, and then it'll automatically be closed. So at least you do have access to that standard change ticket should you ever need to go back and reference it. Yeah. So I apologize there. I started to go a little bit fast. at the end. I know that was a lot of information, but this is a hard one to cram into an hour. And I do want to make sure that I have time to get to your guys' questions and be respectful of your time. I know it's a lot to ask for people to sit on a call for this long. So thank you guys for being patient with us. All right. So looking here at our list of questions, let's see. Let's see. Can we use an Outlook email distribution list for stakeholders for incident notification instead of selecting each stakeholder name in the stakeholders field? Good question. So in terms of using a distribution list, I would say yes, that is possible, but using automation for Jira. But what I think would be more enticing is if you were to identify your services, like I've done here, what you can do rather than having to dip into automation and say, oh, please email this group of people, on the service itself, you can actually, give me a second, go and create a new service. Sorry, over in Ops Genie on our services. Why am I having? No, what's happening here? On your service itself, you can call out all of those stakeholders. So rather than having to identify rather than having to use that distribution list, you can actually reference all of those stakeholders for a service itself. Yeah, so I hope that answers your question. Actually, that is the only question we had out of all of that. I know that was a lot of information, and I do apologize for that first demo not working appropriately. But as we come up here to the end of the time, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to Kylie. And if you guys do think of anything that you saw during that, Kylie has included mine and Brad's email in the chat. So please don't hesitate to reach out and let us know any questions you guys might have.
All right. Thank you, Wade and Brad. Just want to give a shout out to both of you for spending time with us today, going through these extensive demos and answering questions. We're just really grateful for your time. So if you can in chat or with a reaction, just give them a thumbs up, give them some kudos, because they're awesome humans and also very knowledgeable. So we're lucky to have time with you both today. And then just wanted to thank all of you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed yourselves. Got a lot of good information. I'm so glad you guys got to enjoy time with Adam as well. And glad that pizza made its way to everyone. I am going to go ahead and announce our final winner for the day of our Jira Service Management Bootcamp prize. Give me just 1 second here. No, anticipation is killing everyone. Our final winner is, oops, sorry, I did the wrong one. Even more anticipation. Okay, now I have the correct one. Okay, our final winner for today is Alana Jennings, apologies if I missaid your name, but congratulations for winning a ticket to our Jira Service Management Bootcamp course. You will be receiving an email from me if you were a winner today about how to sign up for the class that works best for you. The last thing that I'm going to put in chat is just a little something for everyone. If you were interested in being a part of that class and you didn't receive a ticket, we do have a promo code that we'd like to share with you that you can use. to get 20% off on that course. So if you're interested in that Jira Service Management Bootcamp, you'll log on to our website or go to our website, find that class that works best for you, put in that code, and you'll get 20% off. So if you left still with a lot of questions after Brad and Wade's presentation, we do have this extensive 2-day course that we would love to have you at, and you're welcome to use that code. So with that, again, just want to thank you all for joining us today for this double feature. We loved having you here, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.